I want to talk to you about the uniform because you did an excellent, very thorough job today talking about that part. We'll get to that in a minute. But, John Mozeliak addressed everyone today. I just wanted to know, in your opinion, was there anything that he had to say that stood out to you?
Interesting question. The acknowledgement that there's not a whole lot of competition, here in camp. A lot of the spots are spoken for, but there are still chances for players to kind of elbow their way into more playing time, or even elbow players aside. I guess Dylan Carlson probably has the biggest opportunity in that regard, right? Can he win playing time in center field / win center field? Then you have like some of the young pitchers and what he talked about, like Tink Hens, Michael McGreevy, the new guys they added, where they kind of fit in. That was kind of interesting. Clearly, Mason Wynn is going to get a lot of opportunity at shortstop. I was really intrigued by two things. One, they talk about experience. They talk about what they wanted to add. Even, Mo brought up that when they were looking for starting pitchers or when they were looking at free agents, they wanted guys who had been there and gone post to post, like knew the grind. And I asked him how that contrasted with what they did with the bullpen, where they didn't acquire all that much experience. He pushed back on that notion, saying that, Middleton and Kittredge, they do have a lot of experience. I see where he's coming from there. They do have experience, but not necessarily in the roles that the Cardinals want them to fill, and not really all that much October experience. The bulk of the October experience of the bullpen belongs to Giovanni Gallegos and Ryan Helsley. And so I thought that was really interesting, just that contrast. And then the last one is, look, they start with a rigorous schedule. I wrote about this on the web today at stltoday.com. It's similar to the road trip, though not exactly, but it has similarities to the road trip that just doomed them last year. They just never recovered from it. And they're starting right off the hop with it. Dodgers, San Diego, 8 games in 8 days, 2 different time zones, 3 time zones away from where they spent all of spring training. Just all of it is compounded. And so I asked, what do you do today might you do today to kind of think about that being the beginning? And he mentioned the 6-man rotation. I brought up the 6-man rotation as one possibility, and he said that they're discussing it internally.
I think that makes sense in a lot of ways. How would it work? I mean, do you think all those guys that they have penned into the rotation now, do you think they would be good with that, comfortable with that?
Well, guys are used to 6-day rotations during spring, so it would only be continuing that until the off day that then resets everything, right? So, it would be continuing like a spring schedule for just another 2 turns of the rotation, essentially, maybe even 1.5. So it's like the argument that they want to stay on their 5-day schedule. Well, okay, but they're not going to really be all that jarred from it because you have that extra game in LA that you normally wouldn't, right? The schedule usually opens with that spacer day, that rain out, the buffer day, if you will. But they don't have that because they're opening in LA. So it wouldn't really change all that much. It would just be inserting a guy who they already want to be available for innings and who they hope is performing in, and it wouldn't dislodge the starters too much at all.
Derrick Goold with us from spring training. By the way, you don't need me to tell you this, but the coverage has been great. Team Post-Dispatch really doing it. What great work with photos and videos, too, in addition to the fine reporting and writing. So just wanted to pass along the
Pulitzer winner. We got a Pulitzer winner down here shooting photos.
Oh, that's right. Well, I didn't know that he was down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little more peaceful than where he was when he took all those great shots to win the Pulitzer, though, right? Yeah,
that's right.
Little calmer. All right, let's go to the uniform. And again, compliments because I thought you went to. I thought you put together a comprehensive piece and you wrote it straight. But I think the reaction, it's not universal, but the reaction is pretty negative to these things. I mean, I gotta admit, especially after reading your story, I was more curious to find out more and see more examples. And yeah, there is kind of a knockoff quality to these things. Do you have an opinion on perhaps where this went wrong? And maybe it's a two-part question, where this went wrong, what's disappointing about it? But also, are we going to, just as fans and observers, are we going to adjust to it, and then after a couple months it's going to be no big deal?
Yeah, so the latter part is definitely, because it's just going to be all our eyes see, and we'll adjust. I mean, it's just like anything, like, adjusting to the size of a new phone or adjusting to whatever, higher definition TV, whatever, eventually you're just kind of like, all right, well, maybe higher definition TV is a bad example. No, it definitely is. But there's any number of things that,
sure,
we just kind of like, we don't like, or we feel awkward about at the beginning. And then it just becomes normal. I mean, like two-step security, right? It's annoying when it starts, but then eventually you just do it by rote memory, right? That's a better example.
Right.
I think we'll all just get used to the jerseys. Where this went wrong is, do you have a few hours? I don't know. Like, it's not like there's like one thing that went wrong. It's more like this concert of events that were all related but brought unrelated groups together. Nike puts its swoosh on it. Nike designs the jerseys. Fanatics manufactures the jerseys. Fanatics purchased Majestic and its facility so that it could manufacture, but obviously isn't doing the same quality of work as Majestic or the same kind of work as Majestic. But also, Nike doesn't want that work. Nike wants, they just want this advanced, dry, athletic, light. They want to use their technology, and they want to advance the jersey. And I don't know if that's wrong. I think it's different. But I think we all understand that logos are made to fit on the jersey of the time. And so naturally it would suggest that as manufacturing techniques improve, as, moisture wicking, drying, flexibility, all those things change, that logos would have to change too, right? Like, for example, like if you were a varsity letterman and you get one of those nice letters for your letter jacket and everything like that, like that's old school, right? That real kind of stiff feel of that varsity letter. Well, you wouldn't stitch it onto a Lululemon and go, man, why isn't this flexible? No, like one is from, before, and is from a tradition, is from a fashion that is timeless. And the other is new. The other is modern fashion, modern athletic fashion. I hope that makes sense, right?
Right.
And so I think what has gone wrong is we want the logos of the past that are tradition, and we want them applied to the modern jersey. And when they do so, there's kind of this awkward look at times, right? Like it's like a patch as opposed to stitched in. Because if you stitched in, then all of a sudden the jersey's heavier. I think having heard what the jerseys look like with like kind of a flat logo, boy, I don't know how people would have reacted to that, right? Not without like the kind of robust cross-stitched look of the Cardinals. If it were just a flat, like kind of, almost like a decal, right? But that would be lighter, and that's what Nike was going for, breathable. One of the things, Bernie, that I didn't put in the story, but I'll give you this little description for you and your listeners, and I should have put it in the story, but here goes, is the numbering on some of the jerseys. For some of the teams, you'll see pinholes, maybe even larger holes, in the numbers. and that's part of the modern notion to make it breathable. The Cardinals don't have those. The Cardinals have full numbers because they didn't like the look of those quote-unquote breathable numbers. So I think they wanted to maintain some tradition and did so, and I think that's to be lauded. But where this went wrong, I think, is trying to fit the tradition to the modern, athletic attire. And maybe where it could have been avoided is if they said, okay, we have this tradition, this is the bedrock, these are what baseball jerseys do. How do we make them best within that silo? Not how do we adapt that tradition to the modern gear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I thought one of the more compelling aspects of your story is that Derrick Gould's with us. We're talking about the new uniform design that has gotten, there's a lot of people around baseball pretty upset about it. Maybe it'll calm down. The first glance wasn't real positive. But one of the more compelling things about what you wrote is how the Cardinals fought, basically, to preserve, as you mentioned, some things. But the most important thing was the hand stitching on the classic, the iconic, famous logo across the front of the jersey.
Right.
And man, that must have been a hell of a battle, considering that the designers had something entirely different in mind, and we're going to, in effect, phase all that kind of things out. The whole hand stitching thing, just phase that out. And Bill DeWitt III, who you rightfully and we all know is steadfast in protecting or defending Cardinals tradition with those uniforms. He must have put up a hell of a fight to get them to relent.
Yeah, and it's not the first time. Not too long ago they were trying to go to a two-color format. I mean, can you imagine what the birds on the bat would look like in a two-color format?
My goodness. Yeah, I don't want to imagine.
They were like, no, don't do it. And they're like, well, the cost and everything. So, I mean, it's just the type of thing is the purpose to have, and maybe it is. Maybe the purpose is to have the lightest, best, most, modern and whatever jerseys that you can. Maybe that's, I'm sure you could take a poll of the players around, and like Nolan Arenado and the statement that he gave to Nike or that Nike had for him, where he talked about it's like my favorite T-shirt. Totally get that, right? Like totally understand the comfort and lightness and the dry and the notion that all right, this is faster. Hey, look, man, look at swimwear has changed radically, right, for Olympians. Track uniforms has changed. Well, not radically, but I mean, swimwear has changed radically. But every sport has seen some change in the technology or what they know or what they want to achieve with their uniforms. It makes sense to go lighter, right? Fine.
And I think they'll appreciate that.
The cost of the logo, I don't know.
I think they'll, especially in the St. Louis summer, I think there'll be more appreciation of that once the hot weather kicks in. So, but anyways, it was a really good job. Really,
it's the Phillies and the Cardinals. The Phillies and the Cardinals are getting that that stitching look, But I mean, I'm really eager to see. And I need to look it up if it's already been out there. But the Yankee pinstripes, I'm really eager to see what that's like and what that looks like. The white is a little different, so people will go like, "Man, that red looks a little off." It's the white that's a little different, so that's something to adjust to too.
Derrick Goold with us for a few more minutes here on the Bernie Show. Appreciate him very much. And what's really, sometimes when it's early in spring training, I appreciate all the stuff that you guys write. I really do. But sometimes because this is such a different spring training, there's so much more at stake because you have this influx of starting pitching, you have this influx of relievers, and they're reshaping their entire pitching staff just about. And so there's a lot on the line, even in spring training. And the Sonny Gray stuff resonated with me just as a reader, but also as an observer about, he right away just in effect comes in and takes charge and sets the tone. And he seems ideal for, like, there's only one Adam Wainwright. There'll never be another one. But he seems ideal to sort of take over that role where he's got a personality. He's proactive. He believes like he knows people are looking at him, so he's going to set the right model. I don't know. I know that all he did was throw a bullpen session, but he made a very impressive first showing.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like this is my 20th spring training, if you can believe that, Bernie.
Unreal.
And, bullpens. You watch bullpens go out and you're like, oh man, look at that stuff. Like Alex Reyes' first bullpen, right? When he was a young guy, it's like, oh my gosh, look at that stuff. Or, who is some other guys who have come in here? Or like some guys have come in and the free agents that they signed. I remember Matt Clement. He threw a bullpen and I was like, oh, this is not going to work, right? He didn't have health. He didn't seem right. The bullpens is usually about stuff. Man, this was about like, I can't think of it, and I mean it as a compliment. It was like theater, I mean, it was like he was not putting on a show in that sense, but he was chewing the scenery in that sense. He was like shouting from the mound what he was about to do, the situation he wanted, and then delivered on it, and then offered a thought as to what he did. And, and that all of a sudden then brought Wilson Contreras into it, who started shouting back and started giving him feedback. And everybody was there to watch, but then it was like everybody was leaning in to watch. Does that make sense? Like the whole place stopped to watch Sonny Gray perform.
Right, and no, that was evident. That,
it was
again, compliments to the Post-Dispatch STL Today. People should go there because there's evidence of that just in the great spread of photos on that bullpen session. You can see it. I mean, it's as clear as could be. A lot of people have asked me, and I'm going to pass it along to you. I mean, we've only seen a couple of photos of Lance Lynn. People are curious of whether maybe he's dropped a few pounds and just kind of what he looks like physically. Have you had a chance to survey the scene, so to speak?
To eyeball him, to give him the once over, to give him the up and down there? It's such a weird question. Not the subject of the question, but like, how do you answer that, right? Yeah, I was checking out if the guy lost weight. I don't know. I've always struggled with like, what do I do? What do I say there? A couple things on that. One, I didn't see him much last year. I saw him pitch. I also know that like he wore super baggy stuff last year.
Yeah, it's
right.
True.
Like he does that where he'll go between super baggy jerseys. And then sometimes wear tight jerseys. I mean, he's moving around well. I'll tell you that. Like I saw him do PFP today and cover first base, and he's moving around well. He comes here not at the age in which he left here, but he comes in about the same shape. It seems like I don't think there has been a significant change. He's not the svelte Lynn that showed up here one year and
that was bad.
Pitch.
Yeah, I was going to say that didn't help him. No, I was curious only because people ask me all the time, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Lance Lynn is a proud guy, and he wants to continue pitching, and he knows this is a big year for him. I assume he's taking care of whatever business he has to take care of. I assume that he's on it, and I can't wait to.
He's a big monster of a man, I mean, he's just big. He's a big guy, and he has a big bushy beard that, that if he shaved, he would look younger and thinner, but he doesn't, and. He doesn't wear a baggy hoodie and he's fine. But there with the Dodgers, man, he was wearing a baggy jersey. It was like huge jersey. So I don't know how much of that was him, how much of that was the jersey. But I mean, he's moving around fine, and we'll know. I mean, that's the best part about it, right? Like we'll know when he pitches. You'll tell, and you'll see the results, and you'll see the stamina. He feels like he's got some things figured out from last year. Really tried to throw that sweeper that's the pitch that's in vogue, and kind of threw himself off after that. Kind of had some struggles, but it'll be interesting. I think he's interesting to see. I think it's a fair question. I'm just kind of giving you like an inside sports journalism, which it's like I've always struggled. Like do I go like, oh man, you look like you put on some pounds. Oh man, you look like you lost some weight.
All right, yeah.
It's the same thing with like Jordan Walker. Right? Jordan Walker is bigger. Like he just is bigger. And you can see it. You can't help but see it. It's the guys who like you go, are they? I don't know. I don't. It's funny because that's part of my job, but I don't really know how to do it.
One more question for you. How much is there any way? Do you have an idea in mind, or has Ali said anything that give you a little bit of indication of how often Herrera will catch? And again, I know I'm jumping way ahead, but they didn't bring him up here to sit. I know that. I would imagine
160 breakdown is something, but I don't know if that's like what was said. The 100, 62, 110, 52 kind of breakdown is something that has been kicked around, but I don't think that there's anything set with that. And
he'll have to
Marmol is one to more let it kind of develop, right? They don't want the personal catcher thing, but if it works, they'll use it.
Yeah, he was really impressive last year, not only at Memphis but when he came up. So they got
really
a pretty
impressive last week.
Yeah, he was. They got a really good situation there. So Derrick, I'm running out of time, and I know you got things to do. Maybe, hopefully, within a couple hours, you'll be having some hurricane wings or something like that. So.
No, man. Now you got me thinking. I need to. No, I've really changed my diet down here. Like I got some LBs to drop apparently, especially if sports writers are starting to check out if I've come back in actual good, best shape. I'm not in the best shape
of your life. Well, you best writing shape. Writing shape of your life. So. No,
but I need to. I got the big backpacking trip coming up this summer, so I need to get fit, buddy.
You better.
Hurricane wings are a delicacy, maybe once a month, but it's salads and lots of working out. So here we go.
Well, good luck with that. Thanks,
man.
We'll talk soon.
All right, you can ask Lance Lynn how I look. How about that?
I will.
Yeah.
I'm going to return. I'm actually returning to Busch Stadium this season specifically because I want to see Lance Lynn.
Perfect. Yeah, he seemed really thrilled when I asked him if he missed me today. So really, really thrilled, on brand. Yeah.
Salty son of a gun. Love him. Thank you, man.
They needed it. Yep, thanks.
That's right. See you, buddy. That's our friend Derrick Goold from Jupiter on 590 Fan KFNS. I didn't mean to throw him off with that question about whether Lance Lynn looks, Derrick. I kind of lost Derrick there for a while,
Maybe he just didn't want to say, not really.
As much as I love Derrick, I kind of lost him there. It's like, man, dude, you're my brother. I mean, I love you, but it's not that big of a deal, I'm going to text him and tell him that.
There you go.
Just so he doesn't think I'm like talking behind his back or whatever, No, that's why Derrick is Derrick, and I mean that as a compliment. You never know like where he's going to go with something, It's pretty cool.